Heather's here for Jacob Lenhoff Tours America. Jacob's given me a few questions to answer, and we'll start with the first one, which is, how did I become an author? Writing's always been a hobby, an unofficial hobby. I've written quite a few short stories and thoughts and journals throughout my life, and I never really organized them much into anything until a few years ago. A particularly tough thought process and path that I put myself through to figure out what's important in life accumulated in a few realizations and an awakening of sorts. And I chronicled that path in a book that resonated deeply with me, and I decided to publish it on Amazon. The next question is, what is the first story I remember writing as a child? The one that sticks with me the most I wrote in my preteen years, and it was probably a reflection or a response to dealing with being brought up in a very traditional Christian religion. The story goes that there was a man named Albert Brandon Byington III, and he was an incredibly wealthy man who was in a very serious accident and became paralyzed from the waist down and was wheelchair bound. Through consultation with his minister and prayer and meditation, he became convinced that this injury was a chance for him to show his faith and show the world what God is capable of. He became convinced that he was going to be publicly healed in God's name to prove the glory and wonder of God. He set up a giant spectacle stage, invited people and press and a faith healer to work with him on this healing. After a lengthy service and prayers and the faith healer doing his thing, Albert in his wheelchair wheels himself to the edge of the stage with a triumphant expression on his face and struggles up from his wheelchair and falls forward off the stage and breaks his neck and dies. I know it's a little bizarre, but I guess that's where my mind was at the time. The next question is about the book we're here to review, Breaking Wind, a novel of mystical entities, fun, flatulence, and cats. This book was a total blast for me to write. To this day, I have no idea where it came from. I sat down at a computer one night shortly after I published my first book, and it just started to flow out of me. Every evening for the next 3 months, I sat down at my computer. It was like the book was happening in my mind. I was seeing it and just trying to get it down into the Word document. There was no real plot outline to it in my mind in advance, no real direction as to where it was heading. It just happened like a movie in my mind. I sat back writing this book, chuckling my butt off half the time at some of the stuff I was coming up with. No idea where it came from. It was an incredibly intense, fun experience. After it was written, I had to go back through it and edit it fairly severely because of the way it was written, and added a little research and put a little more accuracy and mythology into it, used characters from actual mythology, even though I manipulated them a little. And the title Breaking Wind was with me right from the beginning. One of the characters being cursed with excessive flatulence actually came out of nowhere as the book was being written. Like I say, it was a fun experience. The next question is, was I hesitant to write a book and potentially publish a book that might be controversial that involved a lady who farted? And no, I wasn't hesitant at all. Like I say, I was chuckling my butt off as I wrote the book. I've always been a bit twisted. I think humor is very, very important. We take life way too seriously. We need to laugh at ourselves and everything around us. And in the book, the curse of flatulence does facilitate a transformation. The book is ultimately about transformation. There are two characters. One is transformed through the experience of flatulence. The other one is transformed by the gift of a kitten that begins to change his life. These two plots continue through the book back and forth until they merge at the end into a nice conclusion. So, was I hesitant? Not at all. There are some risque scenes and some strange things about it. There's a term I'll throw at you called aproctophilia. I won't mention what that is now. You can look it up if you want, but it's quite bizarre, and it is referenced in the book.
Chapter 15. Immortals. The elevator door opened, and a gentleman in a three-piece suit and fedora proceeded to walk down the hall. He stopped at one of the apartments and used his walking stick to gently tap on the door. He was ambivalent to the strong odor coming from within the apartment. The door opened. He was greeted by a very old topless woman with large hanging breasts. She grinned at him and said, "The trickster, I see. How the fuck are you, and what brings you to my current abode?" "Nice tits," the trickster said. "I see you are manifesting as the crone this time. Who are you screwing with these days?" "The crone seemed best for this one. I'm helping a backwards, naive, good-hearted dud of a man. The maiden would have been too distracting for him, and the mother too comforting. He needed to be shaken up. So, the crone it is." "And what heinous fuckery are you up to these days?" she asked. "These mortals are such fun to fuck with," the trickster began. "I ran across a conceited, entitled, nasty piece of work. She calls herself Sally and thinks the world revolves around her. She thinks her shit don't stink. And how are you manifesting to her? Low-key? Anansi? Puck?" she asked. "Nope, Cocapelli this time," he responded. The old lady laughed and replied, "I see. Did you get her to blow your magic flute?" "How crude of you," he said. "Nope. But I gave her a magic talisman, a flute lapel pin. Whenever she touches it, any man she is talking to will instantly fall in love with her and do her bidding." "What's the catch?" she asked. "With you, there's always a cost to every gift. What did you do to her?" The trickster started laughing uncontrollably. "I've outdone myself this time. Aphrodite inspired me," he began. "The cost is flatulence. The more she uses the flute pin, the more she farts. You should hear the butt booming and gas composition she is generating. It's hilarious, and oh boy, does it screw with her self-image. She thinks she is perfect and that all men love her. Then she farts her ass off. What fun." "Jesus Christ, man, that is cruel," said the crone. "Hey, leave our little brother out of this. He has nothing to do with it." "Any idea what he's up to these days?" the trickster asked. The crone smiled. "Who knows, some do-gooder shit. End of the world, more joy in heaven, eat my flesh, drink my blood, pray to me, blah, blah, blah. He never did quite get it, did he? Too many rules, not enough living. What's the point of being in the sandbox if you can't play?" she added. "Yeah, he'll figure it out eventually. He's still young. 2,000 years old is nothing. When he gets to be our age..." The trickster started laughing again. "Dad must have done a real job on him. Dad put us in this amazing playground, unlimited activities and experiences to enjoy, and JC decides to tell everyone that if they live boring, useless lives of devotion to him, they will get their rewards when they are dead." "What a scam," said the crone. "Well, it sounds like you might be doing some do-gooder shit yourself with your chosen mortal." "Getting soft in your old age?" asked the trickster. Yes and no. I can be a romantic, but it is quite fun watching him have his worldview challenged. I set the sprites on him first. They've been doing what they do, playing, having fun, taking it all less seriously, and he has responded well to that lesson. Then I gave him a kitten to love. Events have proceeded from there. Once we reminded him life was to be lived, a grand adventure, he has been open to new experiences. I think he has a chance at happiness, the crone said. "What's the endgame with your mortal, Sally?" "Aside from my personal enjoyment, you know I love a good fart joke. Maybe she will get off her high horse and begin to participate in the great game as a team player instead of an entitled, narcissistic prima donna," the trickster said. "I see. Sounds like fun." "How about some tea?" asked the crone. "Sounds great," he answered. "By the way, what's with all the fucking cats?"
The next question is, was I always a fan of rude humor? And what were my TV, movie, and book influences? And yes, raised on Monty Python, the Benny Hill Show, later in life, the Married with Children series. I love a good laugh, and bizarre, off-the-wall humor really works for me. Some of the books I've read in the past were Tom Robbins and Christopher Moore, if you're familiar with any of their books, they're uh, kind of fantasy-ish, but with a good sense of humor. I've been a sci-fi guy all my life. Star Trek was probably my favorite TV series, and anything sci-fi. But I also enjoyed a lot of the off the wall slapstick movies. You may not remember these. I'm a little older than some of you, I'm sure, but there's a series called Porky's that was quite hilarious, that I really enjoyed. And a movie called The World According to Garp, if you remember that book movie. I remember in my, I guess, teen years, I came across a book called Fuck Yes. And I read that book and really enjoyed it, laughed my butt off. It was about a beachfront guru who gathered up a flock of followers, and his entire philosophy was that if anybody asked him any questions or came across any situations, his answer had to be fuck yes. And with these kind of influences in my youth and upbringing, I always had a good laugh. Laughter is important. The next question is, how long did it take me to write the book from start to finish? And as I mentioned before, the actual writing was a 3-month process. Most evenings, 8:30 in the evening, I got on the computer, wrote for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours at the most, and it just flowed. There was no writer's block. There was never any stumbling where to go next. Like I say, the book just played out in my mind like a movie. After it was done, it did require severe rewrite because the pressure to get it into the word processor as it was happening in my head was left some awkward phraseology, spelling mistakes, and things like that. So I edited it quite thoroughly once, and then another quick editing myself. Then I sent it off to an editor friend of mine who edited it again, and then when she sent it back to me, I did one more edit on it. So between 3 edits of me, one professional editor, I'd say the whole process took about 6 months. A little quicker than my previous book, but like I say, it really came together for me. The next question is, what was the funniest scene to write? And this one's a bit tricky to choose. There is one that stands out in my mind. There's quite a few slapstick, over the wall, over the top scenes of very bizarre nature, but the one that really sticks with me is I worked quite a few years in a very high end menswear store, and the story is set partially in a high end menswear store. And a customer came in, very wealthy customer, regular customer who shops a lot, who has a problem with gas. He farts a lot. The salespeople in the store know this, and they tolerate it and put up with it because he's quite wealthy and he buys a lot of clothes. And you can imagine in these high end stores, there's a little bit of a elitism and a special attitude amongst the sales staff, thinking they're quite special because they sell expensive high end clothes. And I just saw this scene of the main salesperson who deals with this person trying suits on for the gentleman, trying shirts onto them while he's farting. And then one of the junior salespersons, I called him Hector, snuck behind the customer and went over to the cologne counter and picked up some fragrance and starts spritzing the cologne behind the customers to try to cover up the fart smell. And just this scene of watching this little junior salesman spritzing away the fart smells just caused me a chuckle. That scene has really stuck with me. The next question involves the blending of vulgarity and spirituality in a book. And was that challenging? And what's good and bad about it? And to me, there's no bad about it other than the fact that it might turn a few people off who, want to consider themselves spiritual. But for me, the spiritual path has always been something that I studied and thought we needed to redefine. Spirituality, or enlightenment as I like the term, to me has to involve truth. It has to involve something verifiable and provable. And most spirituality out there is a mystical experience or a profound feeling or profound realization of connection to the world. Not necessarily provable or verifiable. And in my opinion, not a lot of help to other people other than the person experiencing it. And I see in the spiritual world, people seem to take themselves so seriously, spend money on gurus and buy into other people's philosophies instead of searching it out for themselves. I think the world of spirituality is a lot simpler than the modern world has made it out to be. And I think laughing at ourselves and humor is a big part of spirituality. I don't think we should bog ourselves down with complex systems that really go nowhere, end up costing money, defy logic. We just need to live our life. And I've come to realize that true spirituality is the act of understanding that we are in this life to experience, to play, to be. It's supposed to be fun where it can. It won't always be fun, but we should enjoy what we can. And that's what this book is largely about. It talks about the importance of enjoying your life, the importance of appreciating relationships as they happen, when they happen, and not panicking or feeling terrible when a relationship potentially ends. It's a lot of acceptance. Let's live our lives. Let's be happy. Let's play as much as we can, as long as we can, in this great game. In the next question, Jacob asks if the point of the book is that we don't need magic in our lives. We just need to be proud of ourselves. And yes, that's certainly a valid concept and underlying in the book. Although the main point of the book is transformation. Um, we have these characters, one who's shy and backwards and one who's a little bit full of herself. And the gods come down and inflict themselves upon them to spur on a transformation. And transformation can be caused by many things: a death in the family, a tragedy, becoming a parent. Many of these things can facilitate transformations. In classic literature, it's often called the hero's journey. In my book, one of the characters is forced to transform through a series of flatulence. The embarrassment and frustration that she goes through causes her to look at life a little bit differently and see things a little bit clearer, and manifests itself in the form of a much improved life. And so, is it about magic? Yeah, magic's in it, but it's more about soul searching, looking into your own heart, figuring things out for yourself. That's the most important thing. The last question is, what do I hope people will take away from this book? And obviously, and first of all, I hope we're going to get a good laugh. It's quite off the wall, some very bizarre situations. I've played a little around with scripture from the Bible. I've played around with a lot of mythology, some of which you've heard of and some of which you won't, and created some very bizarre situations, all with a point, all leading somewhere. Basically, I have this philosophy of life that we need to lighten up. We need to learn how to play more. We need how to learn how to take ourselves less seriously. And underpinning the book is that philosophy. And I have attempted to write it in a lighthearted, off the wall, totally enjoyable manner so that we can all take ourselves just a little bit less seriously and enjoy the ride. To me, we're all players in a great game of life, and you can choose what kind of game you want to some degree. Do you want a game full of love, a game full of tragedy, a game full of chaos, or a game full of magic? It can be a lot of fun. It took me a long time to learn that lesson. It's in all of my writings, and in this book, it's there, underneath it all, in a lighthearted, hopefully enjoyable way. If you choose to read the book, I hope you have a good laugh. I hope you see some of the subtle lessons. It's not too preachy. I won't be in your face with the rules of life and spirituality. It's all meant in fun. So my wish for you is just play on.